I have a question that I hope you'll participate with. And it's by show of hands, how many of you are self-designated developers? My goodness, I think we have something for you. Okay, how many of you, again, show of hands, are aspiring developers? Jordan, I think we have something for them. And it's okay. This is a safe place. And this is something to embrace. But I'm not saying you have to do it. How many of you are vibe coders? Oh, we embrace the truth, and I love it. Scott, I'm so happy you're here. Really, I want to say thank you. The thing we have for you is Codex. I hope you know that's why we're here. That is exactly why we're here. And my clicker was turned off. I'm sorry about that, but that's the last time that'll happen, hopefully. 3 of us here are from Microsoft. I'm Austin Laugesen.
I'm Ryan Jansen.
I'm Jordan Chodak.
And then we have a special guest of honor.
I'm Christopher Robbins.
We lean into the names. We love that, and that's why we love Chris. So what are we going to talk about? Well, code in Power Apps. And yeah, you know, I'm actually super happy with what Charles Lamana and what Ryan Cunningham has said. It's in the AI era, everything's turned on its face. Power Platform was a slow code platform. But Power Platform will look different, and the way we build stuff is going to be different. And Code Apps is leaning into that. So yes, that's why we'll talk about why code in Power Apps. We'll talk about what Code Apps are. We'll talk about, well, why Power Apps with Code Apps versus, you know, the cloud-first thing, like Azure. We'll talk about how they work. Intermixed through all of this, we have some epic demos. And then that includes a customer use case. And we do expect to have questions and answers. And so this is where I want to say, and I'm going to beg you, please, as we're going through the content, reflect on what do you want to ask us? Because we want to know what you want to know. And without further ado, code and Power Apps. Why am I on stage talking about this? Well, who lived through the last year? I want every hand up. We all, come on. We all lived through the last year. And I don't want to say it was a nightmare. Maybe it was a dream. It was a dream, and it was this delight that created this opportunity for code and Power Apps. Because it seemed like, if not monthly, if not weekly, if not daily, for Ryan and I, and then I'm sorry for Jordan, it felt like hourly there was a new business, there was a new product, there was something that entered the app generation market. And all of that technology, a lot of it, 99.9%, there were studies, it was all AI-generated code-first applications. And it's wow, there's this proliferation of code-first, web open standard technology. Well, what do we do with that? What is Power Apps' relevance in the future? Well, we guarantee we have relevance, or at least every day we're fighting and working to preserve and earn the right to have relevance in the future. And so what you saw earlier in the week at the keynote, we showed off App Builder, that app generation technology embedded deep inside, or actually just conveniently inside, M365 Copilot, and that's just for the normal information worker. They don't want to drop in the code. Actually, we don't even let them. But under the hood, we're creating a code-first app. Yes, we are for any digital worker. We're there for any information worker. And then that term we've always talked about in Power Platform, the maker, the person who knows they're going to go build some digital solution. They care more about what's under the hood. Maybe not a ton. Maybe they don't want to go there. But man, that person who's trying to solve a business problem, yes, we're still there for the maker. And so you're going to see, if you haven't seen already, the new experience. You all saw it. Ryan Cunningham showed it on stage Tuesday. The new experiences inside PowerApps.com. But the reason we're here on stage is to talk about technologies just straight right at the heart for developers. And that's Code Apps. So what are they? Well, one, I think, you know, you're all kind of learning I can talk a lot about anything, but the demos will speak way more than anything I can say. So I just have a few more words before I say this. A few more words and like 2 more slides before we get to a demo. But it's, hey, they're JavaScript apps, they're SPAs, they're single page applications. But how do we take just a React app and make it way more compelling for the developer? In IT, don't worry, we have a lot for you coming that is available today, but coming in this slide, or in the slide deck. You know, we can enrich these React apps or JavaScript apps with an SDK. Who doesn't love an SDK? And with the SDKs, you get access to the 1400 Power Platform connectors with auto-generated strictly typed models and services. So, you know, accessing the data you want in a very common pattern. It's through an SDK we give you. And then, okay, for all the developers, and it was the vast majority of you, how many have written auth code yourself and got it right on the first go? All the hands went down. What about the second go? And I can just, it's infinite. Like the bugs that come in authentication, in authorization, they seem infinite. But we, Power Apps, can just give it to you conveniently out of the box because we've hardened it with years of a GA product. And that being Power Apps as the backdrop. But then, okay, when you build an app, we all know it's easy to build. Like, ideas are cheap. Oh man, prototypes are cheap. But actually having something that you can put into a place, into a service, or into the cloud with reliability, resilience, optimization, so it's great performance out of the box. Well, that's very hard. But what if we could put that in a box with a bow? Well, and that's what code apps are. So I got a few taglines, and please count them and give me feedback on if there's too many. But one of the taglines I have for code apps is unbridled development with simplified management. And I had mentioned, hey, this is for developers, and it is for IT. I was talking to someone earlier, they had mentioned they're more on the IT side, and we hear you, we see you, and we know, like, look, we're all here about building digital solutions for our organizations that care about privacy, trust, security, like, so much you need to be enterprise grade. And we can't take for granted that that is so easy, because if you try to do it yourself, it is very hard. So what do we have for developers? Well, if you don't know Canvas apps, and you don't know model apps, no problem. That's absolutely fine. If you prefer code first, if you prefer working in Visual Studio Code, or pick your other favorite IDE, well, Code Apps is for you. Simplified data access, you're gonna get sick of me talking about it, and there's a cool part in the demo, so I won't say more about it. But then there's the enterprise-ready host, and this is where we start to straddle, like when we give convenience to the devs, when they have a beautiful solution to put up into the cloud and share with an audience. But that host isn't just a place to run code for end users. It's also something that enforces governance boundaries. Because IT is gonna go configure policies. Where are they gonna go configure those policies? Well, in Power Platform, or the Managed Platform, we have these pillars of managed operations, managed governance, managed security. And we're here to show you, not just talk about it, but to show you. Code apps work out of the box with all these capabilities. They manifest the best of the managed platform. And that sets the stage for, well, why use code apps versus a cloud-first platform like Azure? Well, I just gave you a ton of the reasons. And it's like, look, I love Azure. Actually, I hope we all love Azure. Power Platform is built on Azure. But what we build on top, the things we built on top of Azure, is everything listed on this slide. It's that auth, well, that's Microsoft's Entra auth. That's in Azure. Oh, when you go host and run the code, that's on top of, what was my manager yesterday was reminding me of everything I take for granted. Whereas like, oh yeah, availability zones, we got co-location, we got just data redundancy. You get an app and it's hosted on CDN. Like, and what did any of you who build an app and put in Power Apps have to do to get that out of the box? Nothing, all you had to do was use the product. So I'm not gonna list this. I actually love seeing all the phones come out for a photo. That's like a personal metric of success on was my content relevant, so thank you. You have time to take a photo if you want to make me happier. But look, you've all heard from me enough. Let's go look at it and see it hands on. And this is where I'd love to hand it to my esteemed colleague, Ryan.
Thank you, Austin. So as Austin mentioned, we're going to dive in on a demo of creating a code app from scratch and see what that looks like. So we'll start here. I'm in the Maker portal. I have a data first table. You can see these are listed projects. They have project names and end date and owner. We want to build a project management app, a dashboard, so that people can add projects, delete projects, kind of review them, and kind of look at their work. So let's go ahead and start. So we'll dive in. Where we start with Code Apps is actually in VS Code, because we're working with pro code solutions here. So the first thing we'll do is we'll scaffold an app to get going. What we're using here, you can do this with any app, any vanilla app that you have, a React app, or single page app. But we're using our starter template. This creates an app for you that provides a bunch of pre-wired or pre-configured libraries. It creates a React invite app that you can run normally and works as you expect, but with a bunch of goodies included out of the box. But if we open this up, let's take a look and see what this app is doing. We can see in the package JSON, so for front-end devs here, any front-end devs in the room, this should look fairly familiar. This is a pretty standard front-end app. Right? It's using Vite to do builds. You can do, you have all your NPM scripts, NPM run dev, NPM run build to do your normal development flows that you would expect. But now we're going to, we want to get this instantiated with the Power Platform so we can run it inside of Power Apps. For this, we're going to use Pack CLI, or the Power Platform CLI. And what this, you may have used this for other commands in the past, you may have seen this in other demos, but this provides a bunch of commands for Code Apps you can run from the command line to work with your front-end app and onboard it to the platform. In this case, we ran a command pack code init. This instantiated some metadata about our app into our project. I created a project dashboard app. And we can see that this actually, in our project, we created a config file, powerconfig.json. It has all of our data in it. So it has our project name, has some other metadata. We'll see more after this as we go. Let's go ahead and run this app. So we're going to run it just like we would any other front-end app, or an NPM run dev. This is using Vite. Now that we have it configured with Power Apps, though, you can see that we get a Power Apps URL to run this against. So I'm going to jump over. I have this already in the tab. We'll load this up. And so this is doing a couple of things. This is our starter template, you can see. This is actually running straight from my local box. You can see the app ID is local. It's saying it's running in local mode. I'm running against the project that I just started on my box, on my local dev server. This is our, I mentioned that we have a starter template, gives you a bunch of power out of the box. We have a bunch of kind of pre-configured styles using industry standard libraries like Tailwind, things like React Router hooked up for pages. You get nice controls, you get nice theming like dark mode, light mode automatically. It's very easy to work with and get started on. Jumping back to the code, the next step here is we want to actually wire it up to data first. So how do we go ahead and do that? Sorry. Hitting an issue there. All right, we're good. Now, to get started with Dataverse, we have to add these Dataverse tables that we were looking at earlier to our project. So we can do this with additional pack CLI commands. So we'll jump up to, we'll call the pack CLI add data source command. And this will do a couple of things. You'll see it's pulling in some data about our tables that I was looking at. But if we go to the Power Config JSON, the first thing we'll see is that it added more metadata to our app. We associated that table, and now Power Apps as a platform will know that this app talks to this table, just like you would add a data source into other apps. But that is not all. We can also see now we have this generated folder in here. This, in addition to associating the table with our app, we also have some generated services and model code that let us quickly talk to Dataverse and make it easy to use. You can see we have a service file that has create, update methods, ability to get and list records, very simple methods to use. But more so, we have all of our schema of our tables. It was able to discover that and strongly type that in a file in our repo. It knows about all the columns, it knows what's required or optional, and this makes it very easy to consume both from code or with coding agents like GitHub Copilot. So now that we have added that into our app, let me go ahead. Now we have to actually write code against it. So let me jump over to our home page that we were looking at earlier. And here we're going to cheat ever so slightly. Instead of watching me write code for a half hour, I'm going to pull some pre-written code that we put together. And we're going to go ahead and rerun our dev server. And so this will give me the new code I dropped in. You should see it. Beautiful. So now we have this amazing project dashboard, beautiful header, but we got to actually build it. So let's dive in. What does that look like? If we go into the code here and look at it a little bit more, we'll scroll down. You can see how we're calling some of the Dataverse methods that were auto-generated for us. We have our project service that lists items. We're picking what columns we want. This is using React Query, another kind of industry standard library that we include out of the box. Makes it very easy to wire up to the UI. We also have methods for creating, deleting projects, a bunch of other methods to make it easy to interact with, but it's very simple to code against. So very simple calls to use the generated code. So let's go up here and we're going to go ahead and uncomment some code that is actually using this and see what that looks like. Hopefully we can see it talk to Dataverse. There we go. So one thing you'll notice before we talk about this is that the app reloaded automatically. One of the other benefits is that of Code Apps is that it works with all of the standard front-end dev tools that you're used to using. So hot module reload, which lets you, as you save files, changes automatically propagate on the app. That just works out of the box. You don't have to do anything to configure that. But now you can see that we're actually loading our projects. So we made a Dataverse call. These are actually the Dataverse records that we were just looking at in the Maker portal. They're loaded in this beautiful JSON table here. But we're actually pulling data. It was very simple to do. We didn't have to worry about auth or how to integrate with it. We just used the generated code. Now, as a dev, as beautiful as this JSON is, and I think we can ship that just fine, my product managers probably don't agree. So we're gonna let's wire that up to UI and see what that looks like. So similar, because we include some of those libraries out of the box that make this easy, we can use a bunch of kind of component libraries and React Query that I mentioned earlier to get some nice UI. So I'll go ahead and save that. And our app is updated. So now we're pulling in some of the components we included in the templates, charts, our table. We have a nice kind of view hooking up to the same items, but now in a nice UI. You can sorting, you can filter on them, you can add projects or delete them. They're all wired up to that same code that we saw before. But we're talking to real data in the app. Great. So now that I'm looking at this, I'm seeing though that we have a bug. We are missing an owner column in the table. There's an owner on each item that we want to show. Rather than add that ourselves, let's go ahead and grab a query here. Let's see if GitHub Copilot can do that for us in this app. So I'm going to jump back to the home page. We're going to launch GitHub Copilot. I'm going to ask it to add an owner column. And we're going to see if it picks that up. Because we're strongly typing all of the kind of helper code, the models, the services, GitHub Copilot and other coding agents are able to reason over it pretty easily and work pretty consistently. So it's scanning the home page, our code right now, and looking for where to add this, and it found it. So we can see here that it found where to add the column. It picked up the right, Dataverse column values to use, and styled it. And we'll keep that. I'll save the file, and we'll jump back, and now we have an owner column. So GitHub Copilot will do that very quickly. Okay, so now we're running our app locally. We have a beautiful app, and we want to get this shipped. It works great on my box, but we have to get it to our users. So what does that look like? How do I get this into Power Apps? So now that we dropped out of, we're ready to deploy it, first thing we're going to do is run a build. This is pretty standard. This is a normal Vite command to build your app. When you deploy to Power Apps, you'll deploy your compiled app assets. So you got to build it first. So once that completes, we will use another pack CLI command, pack code push, to deploy that to the Power Apps environment that we already had pre-configured that we were looking at earlier. So this is creating a new app in Power Apps, uploading the code, and getting that bootstrap into as a real app that we can then share to users or run for real. You can see it spit out a URL here, but we should also see it if I come over to my Mako portal. Let me see if I refresh the app list. There it is. We have our project dashboard. So now it's showing up in the Mako portal like any other app. I can, share this to other people or how you would normally expect an app to work. I can launch it, and now you can see it's running. This is running for real in my environment. I'm no longer running locally. And we have the same app that we were just seeing talking to database. But we're not done. You can see here that this app is in my developer environment. You can see it's running the test data. I need to actually get this to production so that my users can use it. Well, luckily, Code Apps also support solutions and ALM. So we're going to jump over to the solution we were looking at earlier that has our table, and we're going to go ahead and add our Code App in. We should discover it here. And what this will do, adding the Code App to the solution, this enables us to, once it's in a solution, move it across environments. We'll be able to use things like pipelines and deployments to deploy it to our production environment instead of working just in dev. Hopefully we should see it pop in. There it is. We will jump back over to the solutions list, and then we'll hit deploy to see what that looks like. And we already have my developer environment's already hooked up to production environment through a pipeline. There's already a way to deploy setup. And now that I've added the solution, I can go ahead and deploy that. This takes a few minutes, so in the interest of time, I'm not going to run through it. Code Apps work out of the box with it, and will let you go to production. I will instead jump over to my prod environment directly, where I had an app we deployed earlier, the same app. But you can see here that this is the same app we just had, but now we're running, because we went through a deployment and deployed to prod, it's automatically running against all my prod data. I didn't have to do anything to handle that or manage it. It all works seamlessly with Power Apps deployments. So that's it. We went from creating a code app from Dataverse from scratch in probably about 10, 15 minutes, and deploying that all the way through prod. It was very easy to set up and very quick to get going. All right, so now that we've built a code app, let's talk a little bit about how code apps work under the hood. Kind of a recap of what we just saw and how things are pieced together. So let's start with development, what we saw running locally. We saw three big pieces there. We had my app code, or your code. It was a single page app. We used our starter template, and that app was React and Vite, but it doesn't have to be. Any sort of NPM-based single page app can work. We had the Power Platform CLI, or PAC CLI. This was used to give a bunch of commands at development time that I could add data sources to my app or add metadata to my app to make it run on the platform, things like Dataverse tables. And then we had, you saw this kind of silently working under the hood, but the Power Apps SDK, an NPM package that we had installed in the app. This is what facilitates in the local shell being able to talk to Dataverse and actually interact with the Power Apps platform. Once we deployed the app at runtime, the pieces are similar but a little different. We saw we had our compiled code that we pushed up to the Power Apps service. It was using the same Power Apps SDK to talk to our Dataverse table and integrate with the Power Apps shell. But now it was running in the Power Apps host at apps.powerapps.com. The host is the layer that gives you a bunch of kind of the platform features out of the box. This includes things like end-user authentication and authorization, making sure that you can share the app, only people who have access to it can get to it. That all works automatically. App loading, you get performant and reliable app loading. You get all the resiliency of the Power Platform without having to go try to set that up yourself or make sure that you have a resilient setup. And enforcing governance boundaries. We'll talk about this and do a demo on this a little more in a few slides, so I won't go into detail here. But the host is what provides that capability. Additionally, the SDK, when running the host, is what facilitates communicating. It communicates up to the SDK to talk to the platform in a secure way. Talking to Dataverse or connectors, things like tokens and authentication are all abstracted away from the app and handled for you. You don't have to worry about that. The app doesn't have to know about it. Security is just handled. And that brings us to a feature that is coming soon, so not yet there, but on its way. But we're excited about it, so I want to talk about it. Power Apps Host supports a secure sandbox via a feature coming called Content Security Policies. So content security policies, or CSP, are a control that are settings that you can apply on an app or a site that give you very fine-grained access or fine-grained control over what the app can do, more than you can do with standard Power Platform controls. These settings are enforced by the browser automatically when you set them. This controls a few different things. It gives you a lot of power to kind of harness, to make sure the app is only restricted to what it's allowed to do. You can control embedding. Power Apps can be embedded in other products. You can, or in other sites. You can put it in an iframe in your internal app, for example, or your internal site, for example. You can control, if it's allowed to do that, you can control what sites it's allowed to be embedded in. You can also manage network access for the app and control that. Things like what calls the app can make at runtime. You can lock this down totally to connectors or Dataverse or Power Platform APIs, or you can open it up to bring in, if you want to load images from your own CDN or something similar, you can open up other network files. And finally, it allows you to disallow automatically some insecure JavaScript patterns or bad practices that can lead to security issues. Things like eval or dynamic script injection, you can block all that in the app and have it automatically enforced. When this rolls out, it'll be for code apps will enforce a very strict policy by default, but we'll have controls for environment admins to be able to open it up as needed. And that's a good segue into the next section. We talked about this a little bit earlier with kind of governance capabilities. The other cool thing about code apps, we talked about the developer side, but going into the IT admins in the room, code apps fully supports the managed platform. All of the features you know and love around operations, governance, and security work out of the box. We saw things like solutions and deployments, but things like DLP, data loss prevention policies, or sharing limits, or on the security side in Entra, being able to set conditional access or MFA. That all just works, and if you already have that set up in your environments, it'll respect those automatically. But rather than continue to read a laundry list of all those features here, I'm going to hand it over to Jordan, who will show you a demo of those features in action.
Sting. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to show you the laundry list. So not only do developers appreciate that you can build code apps wherever you want, but IT will also appreciate that code apps respect all the same management capabilities that you get for your traditional Power Apps today. So we're going to start by looking at this beautiful code app that Ryan just created. And to demonstrate governance in action, I've created 5 additional copies of this app. And each one highlights a different governance or security control. So let's start with conditional access. And here we'll see, once it loads, that this app is blocked from running because my admin has applied a conditional access policy, in this case a block policy. But conditional access policies can also enforce things like multi-factor authentication, which ensures that even when this app is widely shared, access is secure. And building on that security foundation, we often highlight with Power Apps today that you get Entra authentication out of the box with 0 lines of code. And the same thing applies for code apps. So we can see here that this app is using connections that require the consent dialog. And we see that the prompt lets me know that it's identifying me as the user and gives me the ability to grant the app access to these connections. And now for our next one, we'll go back to Make.Power Apps, where I can share apps with other users. And because this environment has sharing limits applied, we'll see here that when I try to share this app with my friend Ryan, if I can spell Ryan, we'll see in a second that sharing is blocked, which is awesome. But wait, there's more. I know you were wondering. We'll see here that this app is also blocked from running because it's trying to use a blocked connector. And if I want to see specifically which connector is blocked here, I can see more. And I can see for some reason that my admin really doesn't like the weather connector. So it can block the weather connector from using my data here, and the app isn't allowed to run. But not only that, but at design time, developers are made aware of which connectors are restricted, and if they try to use those restricted connectors, they're blocked from doing so. And last but not least, we have quarantine. So if an app is not respecting internal policies and data policies aren't providing enough coverage, quarantine is available. So here's yet another example of an app being blocked from running wild until the IT can work with the developer to bring the app to compliance. But beyond all of these toggles and policies for blocking apps from running, management also requires high fidelity inventory. And I'm sure you've heard about 1 million times this week that inventory is now public preview as of today. And here I can see all of my apps deployed across all of my environments. And if I want to focus specifically on code apps, I can filter by app type. And this gives me a view of all of the code apps deployed on the managed platform, giving me details like environment, last modified date, and owner. But beyond governance, the managed platform also empowers operations teams through the monitor experience, which provides rich insights into app performance and reliability. And I see here that I can get access to metrics specifically for code apps, like launch counts, load times, and success rates. And if I want to dive deeper into a specific app, I can do so by clicking into it and see trends for each of these metrics over time. So now we've seen that with all of these managed platform capabilities, IT can govern and scale code apps confidently, applying enterprise-grade controls to custom-built solutions. So you've heard a lot from us who work at Microsoft about how great code apps are. But you might be wondering, is anyone actually using this in the real world? Well, please help me in welcoming Christopher Robbins to talk about how his team is building an enterprise-grade solution using code apps that's poised to go to production soon.
So, I've been working on code apps since about August is when I found out about code apps. I heard about it a little bit before then, but this has been a game changer for us, and I'm going to dive into that here in a minute. But first of all, what is Lomas? Just so that you guys understand where I'm coming from. We're a chemical engineering firm. We design chemical engineering products for all the major oil companies out there. So if they have a feedstock, they want to turn it into something else, all of our IP's in the middle there that we license out to everybody to be able to make that actual product. With that comes a ton of engineering calculations that need to happen. These calculations have been developed in Excel and Fortran and all sorts of languages over the years, and we're in a major modernization effort right now to bring those up to web apps. Originally, we were like, hey, let's go and just go Power Apps. That's cool, that'll work well for us. We think we can make it fit everything, but we hit some hurdles. The size of our apps, the amount of data that we were working with when we're dealing with true engineering solutions that have 10,000 items that we're trying to look at a given time. Engineers love to look at a ton of data. They love Excel for that stuff. This is one of those things that was really a struggle for us on how we were using Power Apps, Canvas apps specifically. Then we ran into code apps. And with that, I was like, oh, we are going to run fast at this. With GitHub Copilot coming out and being able to turn an engineer. By the way, in August, I had never written a single line of React, ever, in my entire career. In July of 2 years ago, I had never written a single line of C#. So like, I was a true chemical engineer, mechanical engineer. That was my role, and I just broke everything, so they put me in charge of fixing it all. Don't break things if you don't want more responsibility. It's really the big thing there. But so we decided to run fast at this. And with running fast, we're running fast because we have the ability to actually control the performance of the app a little bit more. We can really dial into, hey, when do we want to load this data? How do we want to load this data? But we're still getting all of that same security and out-of-the-box functionality of the Power Platform that I don't have to think about building an off page or any of that stuff that just is annoying to get off the ground to get you started. This is way more agile for us to work with too. So we have many apps that deal with process streams. And a stream for us, like that's a flow rate, it's a temperature, it's a pressure, it's got all these different properties, and we show that data, and we want to show that data all the same way. When we're dealing with Canvas apps, we had to, and they are stored in different tables, by the way, between the different apps. So we had to copy the app over, delete the tables, put in the new tables, and it was just a pain. With this, just using the strongly typed models, I'm able to just take that same app as a component, a true component, and move it, that screen between the different apps that we're building. I won't dive too much further into this, but 140 hours. That's what it's taken me to get the app to where it is today right now. It took us over 18 months with 4 developers to get the app that I'll also show you. I'm going to give you a demo of why we're doing this as well, why we went after this. But it's a game changer for us and how fast we're going to be able to develop these next apps. It's taken us a long time in this modernization effort. I don't know if anybody else is going through a modernization effort right now, but it's a challenge. There's hurdles all the time, and this is just something that's going to allow us to go faster. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I actually get to what you want to see, the actual demo, is testing. I can actually unit test every single piece of my app, so I'm more confident when I go to UAT that we have something that is working the way we expect it to work. With that, we actually pushed the app that I'm going to show, I guess I'll show it now, to UAT yesterday. So that's a big milestone for us, was getting this to UAT. We have, the way we store all our data is in what we call binders. And that's just how we're organizing our project data and how things are stood up, right? So with that, we're able to have, this is a debutinizer reflux pump for our hydraulic calculation. That may sound like complete gibberish to everybody, and that is fine. When you're a chemical engineer, that's what you deal with. I think I'm showing up there. But this is where we would actually be clicking on here for the alt case to load this, and this is what will load our code app in the near future. Right now, we just have a little new app button for our UAT testers to go test this, but I want to show you why we're making this change. There's a fair amount of data going on here, but when I go into the actual segment, so we're going to go look at the same segment when we go into the code app here, you'll see I have an embedded Canvas page inside of the model-driven app to try and keep the user in the same context and working with it. It's just taking, and this divide by 0 is always fun too. I can never get rid of all of those. But like, there's a lot of data going on here. There's a lot that they're trying to deal with. And the way that hydraulics works is it goes from one point to the next point down the line. So I needed to give them a way to click and move. Well, now it has to reload that embedded Canvas page again, and it just takes a little bit of time. So let's just ignore this. We're just going to go back real fast, and we're not going to see the real thing that everybody came here to see, the actual Canvas app. Or code app, and you can see, sorry, code app. You can see it's dealing with all the connections. I haven't even logged into our QA environment, so this is me logging in for the first time to this app here, so we're gonna have some fun. I'm still working on getting getting the initial load of my data. This is a me problem, not a code app problem. This is how much data I'm loading at the front of it, and it should get there. There we go. So now, this is one of the other cool things. So we'll go to the segment. You can see I have a similar segment list, but now I am able to expand it to have all this additional data as well against those individual segments, so the user can see that a lot faster. The other piece to this is pulling from multiple different elastic tables, embedding that into one data grid for the user to see. So we're also using elastic tables, which I know is a foreign concept to a lot of people, but that's my plug for elastic tables. They're fun there. But now I've actually been able to embed a full process flow diagram that will get a heck of a lot prettier when I have more time. It will be more than blocks, but these are actually the graphical representations built on the fly just off of the data from the segments and how they're connected. And now I can click on one of these, and we're actually going to launch right to that segment page. And how much faster did that load versus what was loading previously with the embedded Canvas app? So, and now if I want to switch to the next one, it's just there. So this is why we are running so fast at these different, at the code apps. I can click into this, I can have embedded data grids. Again, I know there's a lot of work I still need to do. We're just in first round of UAT right now. But we're so excited to bring code apps to, that's not going to be the only thing my team develops at this point. We're not going to develop Canvas apps anymore. We're going straight code app. It's just faster.
gave us a ton of great feedback. I'm about to put a plug for you to give feedback too. But Code Apps, what is it? It's power apps for developers, and it's a safe place to innovate. It's one of your fastest paths to build an enterprise line of business application. So you can build where you want, take the convenience of all the stuff you get out of the box, like intro off. And for IT, we reinforce the safe place to innovate with everything we've ever touted for the managed platform, operations, governance, security. I'm paid every time I say those 3 words, which is why I say it all the time. Yeah, it just works with Code Apps. So our call to action is, look, this technology, everything you saw here today is publicly available. We had humble beginnings back in May at Build where we started an early access preview, and then we just invested and matured and made it better over time. And it's the best it's ever been. And today is the worst it will ever be, because we're continuing to invest and make it better for everyone, for us and for yourselves. So we have office hours with our public preview coming online. We have 2 more instances this year. If you want to sign up, don't worry, I'm going to hang out on the slide, but I do recommend check this out, sign up now so you get the invite. And then in addition to this year, or really after the holiday season, you can expect in January, we're going to be in full swing and have a very regular cadence of office hours. And what do you get? Well, if you like the stuff you saw here, you're going to get just more of it and more incremental, like bite-sized snippets, whether it be week by week or bi-weekly. But then 2, live Q&A. If you're, hit your head against the wall, and we don't want anyone to ever do that, come chat with us. We love talking to you. We love talking to you now, and we want to talk to you in the future. And then also, what better way to give us feedback than to hop onto the call where we give